Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana, and today I'm going to do my recap of all the games that my family played in March of 2022. I'm going to start with the games that were returning to our table, things we had already played before, and then get into the new games to us during the month. If you're curious to see what hit the table, stay tuned. First off, some stats. We played 40 gameplays. So this is the third month in a row where we've exactly hit that value of 40. And this was including 17 different games, 8 of which were new to us, and several which I don't own, so I'll have to show you some pictures of some of those. I'm going to recap the ones that weren't new to us first, kind of going in descending order from, or maybe ascending order from least played to most played. So first up, we have Seven Wonders Architects. And Seven Wonders Architects is by Repost Production. We just played this one time, took it to a game night with some friends of ours who hadn't played it yet. This just continues to surprise me with how easy it is to teach, how easy it is to play, and how much people really enjoy it. It's super simple, plays quickly, and we really enjoyed our play of it again in March. Next up is a much bigger box, and unfortunately we only got to play this one time as well. My wife and I have been trying to get through all of the campaigns in here, and I think we played 7 or 8 times now. We're getting close to the end, but as the campaigns get later in the kind of chronological order, they get longer. And so we've been having a hard time finding long enough windows where we can sit down and play through a full adventure, and we're just always hesitant to do partial one. Maybe we should just give up on that hesitancy and just play them. But we're still enjoying this game, but just struggling to try to wrap it up. We do have a 10 by 10 challenge where we're trying to play 10 legacy/campaign style games in this year, and this is just the second one, and we're already almost halfway through April, so hopefully we can wrap this one up quickly and get on to the next games on the list. So but Roleplay Adventures won by Thunderworks games that we're really enjoying still. Next up is Libertalia Winds of Galecrest, and this is one that I have a review on my channel for if you're curious to see that. It's by Stonemeyer Games. It's a review copy that they sent to me. I've played this one a number of times, only a couple of times in March, but a bunch of times in the month prior when I was setting up that review, and really still enjoying it. It does take kind of the right setting of the right people and the right group size. I think it's, for me personally, it's just much better at larger player counts than it is in lower player counts. So, but still enjoying that. Played that one a couple times in March. All right. Next up, this one we played a few times. I played a few times. I've basically just been playing this one solo, and that's Rolling Realms by Stonemeyer Games. And Rolling Realms, this is one that I purchased myself, but I've actually added on the Terra Mystica expansion and the Rolling Realms expansion, the Libertalia expansion as well. Just enjoying the variety, and primarily I just log on to YouTube and watch Jamie play through a round and just kind of follow along, see if I can tie or beat his score, which I don't very often do, but I seldom just play. I usually watch along with the video and kind of play along, and so I played a few times in March, Rolling Realms, and still enjoying that one as well. Next up is another little card game we just played a couple of times in March, and that is Abstract Academy. This is by Flat Out Games and Crafty Games, and it's an interesting little game about playing cards that all have these different patterns on it. It's very much a pattern building game. It's got a nice little push and pull action to it when you're setting up the grid. I also have a review of this one that I'll link up above if you're curious in checking that out. We just played that one a couple times in March. Next up is one that I haven't played in quite a while, and that is Splendor. This is by Space Cowboys, and just still enjoy this game. It's very simple, and I actually played it, I think, this month all online. Didn't actually pull the box off the shelf, but just enjoy sometimes a 5-10 minute quick game online, just sort of scratch that itch when I don't have time to set up a game. Also with our Legacy Campaign Challenge, we've had a lot of the games just set out on the table pretty frequently, so finding something I can play online really quickly when I don't have a lot of time is kind of nice. Enjoyed a couple of 3 plays, I think, of Splendor in March. Next up is Maquis, and Maquis is a game by Side Room Games. It's a solo-only game where you're trying to play the resistance and you're trying to not get arrested and accomplish these different missions. It's pretty fun, and I played this one actually online as well. I played it a bunch with the actual game, but recently just playing it online and enjoying that. So played this one, I think, 3 times in March as well. And then next up, Happy Salmon. Happy Salmon I haven't played in ages, but I have an advisory group at the school that I teach at with 16 guys, and one day several of them were gone, and I had this, just took it to school, and there were just exactly 12 of us, and I have 2. I have both the green and the blue fish. And so we had all 12 of us just running around a table. We played both the silent version, we played the out loud version, and they just had a riot. They'd never seen a game or experienced a game like this, so it was a lot of fun playing Happy Salmon. This one's by North Star Games. And then the last one that is not new to me, and again, I don't have the other one, so you've seen this month after month because I'm in a game group where we're playing this routinely every Tuesday night. We get together and play a couple campaigns. Played this 8 times in March and really enjoying it still. So I think we're up to around 20 or so different sessions of this and still enjoying it. This is Gloomhaven by Cephalofair Games. This is the Jaws of the Lion version that I actually own, but we're playing a friend of mine, his copy, on those game nights, and so I don't have the big box of the original that we're actually playing. All right, so those are the games, the 9 games that weren't new to me. Now let's get into the games that were. And the first few I don't own because, again, they belong to a friend of mine, but we play them on other game nights. Usually play on Tuesdays and Thursday nights most weeks. And one is Unfathomable by Fantasy Flight Games. Now, Unfathomable is a reboot or a remake of the Battlestar Galactica sort of famous game. It's got a kind of cult following, I think, in some ways, and very well loved, but not very well available. And so Unfathomable was Fantasy Flight's attempt to put that back out in the market, and we played that. And I did enjoy it. It's not necessarily the kind of game that I want to go back to over and over again. I did end up being converted halfway through the game to one of the bad guys, and we did win the game by, I think, sinking the ship, if I remember correctly. So it was fun. It was a nice night. We had a great time laughing and having a blast, but probably not one that I would want to own or go back to frequently personally, but I would always be happy to play it if someone asked me to. Next up that was new to me, this is by Capstone Games, and again, my friend owns it. I don't have a copy yet, but I intend to, and that is Ark Nova. Really loved my experience with Ark Nova. Only played it once, unfortunately. I would love to play it again, and hopefully we can bring that back to game night soon and get it back to the table, because I would love to play it again, and I expect to probably own it. It did have some things that kind of reminded me of Terraforming Mars, but it seemed very, very different. I will say that it felt a little bit more like, instead of building a zoo, more like you're managing a zoo. And so it kind of broke my expectations that way, but in terms of gameplay, really enjoyed it and can't wait to play again. The next one is kind of a classic, and it is A Feast for Odin by Z-Man Games. We actually played with the Norwegians expansion, and this was the first time I'd ever played any version of A Feast for Odin. So it was a bit overwhelming to try to understand what all the iconography meant and what all the different worker placement options were, and how to go to different islands and build boats and do all these things. There was quite a bit going on, but I enjoyed it and didn't do too badly. Didn't win for sure, but I enjoyed it and would like to come back to that one. I wouldn't say it's like in my top 50 probably. It might crack the top 50. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd ever own it, since I have a few different friends who own it. I know I could get to their house and play it, but I don't know. I'd want to play it a couple more times first to see. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Just didn't quite become one of those all-time favorites for me personally. Next up is Teotihuacan, the City of Gods, and again, don't own this one, but I recently received Founders of Teotihuacan as a review copy, and so I wanted to play the original so I could see how they compared. And one of my friends had me over one night with a couple other friends, and we enjoyed playing that, and I really liked Teotihuacan. It was a lot of fun. The dice movement where the pips tell you how far you can move, and I just really liked all the thinkiness of the game, the puzzle, and just only had a chance to play it one, but it is one that I also, like Ark Nova, want to add to my collection. Really did enjoy that one, and we'll be talking about the other one here pretty soon. Next up on the list, and now finally again a game that I own, and that is Chronicles of Crime 1900. We have another couple of friends who enjoy coming over every couple weeks when we can get together and playing some games, and they really like mystery games and cooperative games, and so we had a good time. We played a couple rounds of Chronicles of Crime 1900, and I haven't played the original Chronicles of Crime, but I played a couple sessions out of the 1400 and then played this one. And this one's by Lucky Duck Games, and really enjoyed the couple of plays we had for this one. Some tricky challenges, but really a lot of fun. All right, next up is another new one to us, and played this a couple times. Sorry, tipping things over here. We got Star Wars, Jabba's Palace, a Love Letter game. This is by Z-Man Games, and played this a couple times. Played it with my wife, and then also played it with a group of 4. Much better with a group of 4, in my opinion. I don't mind regular Love Letter or even the Hobbit Love Letter with just 2 or 3, but I think this one, the more people you have, the better it would be, just because of some of the way the cards play and how you're playing both Empire and Rebellion, depending on the hand. So if you've played Love Letter, it's very easy to get into, and even if you haven't, it's pretty easy. But I just think this particular version of it probably plays better at a higher player count. One, I'll probably keep at school to play when I've got just a small group of students who are curious to try a quick game. So Star Wars, Jabba's Palace, a Love Letter game, got a few plays of that in as well. Now, the next one I do own, but one of the friends who I often go and play his games, he borrowed it this weekend, and so I don't have it with me, but really loved my 2 plays of Return to Dark Tower by Restoration Games. And played once with one group of people. It was a 4-player game, and then played it with another group of people, 4-player game, and just loved both experiences. In fact, left it out on the kitchen table after that second game, hoping maybe my wife and I would get a chance to get to it, but had some other things come up and just didn't fit in the schedule. Really looking forward to getting that one back to the table. Haven't also played the expansion version, or the expansion of it yet, the Alliances expansion, so I'm excited to try that as well. Just a beautiful production, really a lot of fun, cooperative. The app is, I think, really well integrated. There's a few things, and I'll probably do a review of this, a few little nitpicks that I think maybe could have been done slightly better, but overall, this is quickly rising into one of my favorite games. Not sure if it'll crack the top 10 or not, but probably top 20. I want to get a few more plays in before I rank it, but yeah, really enjoying it and looking forward to lots and lots of plays in the future. That tower is just such an eye catcher, and it just draws people in. It's pretty easy to talk somebody into trying that game, and it's really not too complicated even for people who haven't played a lot of games. So Return to Dark Tower was great. Played a couple times in March. And the most played new game to me in March is the one that I hinted to a little bit ago, and that is Founders of Teotihuacan. And this is also by Board and Dice, like the original. And this is one that was sent to me as a review copy, and I've so far now played it 1 player, 2 player, 4 players. Don't think I've played it 3 players yet, but played it 4 times in March and a couple times in February, and actually just probably going to be filming my review of this either later today or tomorrow. Enjoyed this game, not as much as the original personally. I can see why some people might prefer this one over the original. I heard before I started playing the review copy that it was going to be like a simpler, more streamlined version. It doesn't take up quite as much table space, but it still takes up a lot. And it's probably simpler to learn how to play because the design is pretty nice and streamlined. But there's a few rules in it that I think make it a little more complex than the original in some ways. And I think overall the puzzly nature of it isn't much less complex than the original. It's just kind of the entry point might be a little bit simpler. So a very puzzly game. And the people that I've played with have really enjoyed it. Played with a couple different groups of 4. And yeah, for some of them, it was one of their favorite plays of the year so far. So really nice game. Look forward to my review here coming up probably sometime later this week. Teotihuacan, Founders of Teotihuacan by Board and Dice. So as I think back over the month and the 17 different games that I played, what were the winners? So for the one coming back to the table, I would have to say still that Role Player Adventures. That's just one that, even though it's taking longer and longer to get through the adventures, I still look forward to it, rolling the dice. My wife and I have kind of gotten on a roll. The last few adventures we've been doing really well. We had some trouble dying a lot in those middle ones, but starting to get our hands built up well enough and understanding how to manage them well. So I'd say for the returning one, that was my favorite of March. And for the new one, Return to Dark Tower. And this was Founders of Teotihuacan, not too far off. It was pretty fun. And Teotihuacan maybe a little bit ahead of this. So kind of 3 games that I really, really enjoyed, not to mention Ark Nova being right there as well. But I would say my number 1 was Return to Dark Tower. So glad that I picked up the Kickstarter version of it with all the deluxe features. Just really brings it to a new level, and I can't wait to play it again. So that was my March for 2022 and the games that I played along with many different friends and my wife. So I would love to hear down in the comments below, what were your favorite games in March? Tell me what hit the table at your household. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and it would be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about any of these games or just want to leave any other comment, please do that down below, and I'll be glad to chat back with you in those comments. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy Indiana, signing off.